Hello, hello, hello. Rue, did you say hi to our friends?
Say hi. Say hi.
Yeah. Guys, happy birthday to me. I just turned 33 and I thought this is the perfect opportunity to tell you a little bit about 13 of some of my favorite lessons that I've learned in my lifetime, which seems like, oh, this is so uneven. I'm like, we need to fix this lamp situation. I need to be in the middle. I'm sure a lot of you were bothered by this. Listen, I've learned a lot of lessons and it was so hard for me to narrow down the 13 most important lessons, and I thought it would be so fun if we do 13 going 33, a little homage on one of my favorite movies that I just rewatched recently. Let's start. Of course, I took some notes. Number 1, always be in awe. Okay, what does it mean? How are we real? Like, if you think about the universe and you think about the amount of people who needed to meet previously to you being born, it's statistically almost impossible to be alive. And this just blows my mind. Like, how many of my grandparents almost didn't meet, or like there were so many diseases back in the days, like it was so much harder to survive, and yet they met. They made their babies and then they made their babies, and just thinking about the literal impossibility of being alive, I'm just in awe. But then I'm also in awe, you know, I have this little trick, like when I walk through nature and you see like a tree, right? And we're used to trees, so we're like, oh yeah, a tree. But imagine somebody would tell you to build a tree like that. Where would you even start? Or think about our body is working so well. There are so many systems going on at the same time and it's working so well, nearly perfect. Imagine you build a machine like that, like as complex as our body. It would break down after like 2 years. You know what I mean? Like the fact that we are so almost flawless, that nature is flawless, it blows my mind. And I think it's so important to always be in awe and never lose sight of this wonder called life. And I had such a crazy anxiety out of nowhere, like it was so strange. And I realized that in order to get rid of my anxiety, I need to release emotions. And I was crying and it was like so much that needed to get out. And yet I was like, I'm just so fucking grateful to be alive. Sometimes I'm like, is life even real? Because the chances that it's a simulation just so much higher. I don't believe in that, but it's such a wonder, and like you need to remind yourself every day to be in awe of this thing called life. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Number 2, the greatest gift you can give to this world is yourself. And that's a lesson that took me a very long time to learn. Or let's say it came in phases. I think in the beginning it was easy to be me and be myself, and then I went into this weird direction where I tried to be around being, but I tried to fit myself into a square, and I tried to adapt to everything and everyone around me, and I tried so much to be like people expect me to be or how others were, that I lost myself along the way. Like at one point I didn't even know who am I anymore, like what makes me me. And then I rejected the parts that a lot of people loved about me. Like I was rejecting my joyful part. You know, I am a little bit childish or youthful. Call it as you want. But you know, that's the part that makes me me. When I think about other people having these qualities, I'm like, I love these qualities in other people. But when you see them in yourself, you may start to reject them. That's the worst thing you can do. And I read this one thing that really changed my perspective on this. It's about Dali. And you know, if Dali had tried to be like Michelangelo, we wouldn't have Dali. And this just blew my mind, because I feel like, especially with like the age of social media, and you know, you always compare yourself, and then like you need to be more like this, you need to be more like that. There's so much noise out there. But if you try to adapt to others, the price you pay is yourself. And the greatest gift you can give to the world is yourself. I could make a whole video on this topic alone, but it's so important to really embrace fully who we are. I spent so many years years, and I still do, like it's a big topic in my therapy, striving for perfection. And I'm telling you, if you strive for perfection, you can only lose. And I know because I went there. I tried to be as perfect as I could possibly be, but you lose your humanness. And I really had to come to terms with being imperfect, being human with all my flaws. I'm trying to become more comfortable with showing these flaws to the outside world because I was trying to construct this perfect being. But in the end, the thing we're best at is being ourselves. Number 3. Foundation always comes first. Always build on foundation. What I mean by that is, people are like, money brings happiness, but happiness brings money. And yes, you need to differentiate whether, like, the situation you're in. I assume you have your basic needs covered and you don't need to worry about survival. Then I'm sure we are always in this state, and I caught myself in this. I'm like, when I have this, when I have that, when I have this, when I reach this, I'll be happy. And I'll tell you a little story because I have recently reached a big goal of mine, and it was kind of like the end goal of my journey in fashion, and it's something I've been working towards for many years. And when I reached this goal, I was like, why does this not feel like it's supposed to feel? Like, why does it not feel how I thought it would feel? And there's this Disney movie, it's called Soul, and I think this movie is a perfect example of, in the end, we overestimate what it really means to reach our goals. I'll touch on that after this point, but just to finish this, when I reached this goal, I was like, first of all, it doesn't feel like this. Second of all, I'm still insecure in this regard. Like, why am I feeling insecure? Why? I don't feel as strong as I thought I would feel. And that's why I say always focus on the foundation. Because if you don't have the foundation and you reach your goals, there's no point because you still feel that urge for safety or whatever it is you're looking for. There was also a big realization in therapy, and that's what brings me to the next point, which is it's always about the journey and not the destination. This is one of my favorites because I am quite goal focused, and so many times I'm thinking, if I just reach this, if I just do that, I made it. And then I always realize that if you don't enjoy the process, there's literally no point in reaching your goal because you will reach it. And I just talked about this, but the journey is so important. It's the most important thing. And there's even studies. I also just recently read about it. There's studies that say that the path of reaching your goals is so much more fulfilling and nourishing and more important, like for your well-being and for your feeling of accomplishment than just reaching the goal. And when I told my therapist, I'm like, I reached the goals, and why do I not feel like I thought I would feel? Like, why am I lacking the foundation? And she said, confidence, like true confidence, comes from the process. And, you need to get good at the process. And that's kind of like, it goes hand in hand with the journey, process. It's all the same thing. It's like the in-between, between where you are now, where you want to go. And it's all about the in-between. I love that. I love learning about that because I'm still learning. Number 5 is, in order to have great friends, be one. So you need to invest in friendships. And every good relationship requires work. That's just a matter of fact because we are humans. We are a little bit complicated and things are not always easy. And a lot of times you are going through the cycle of relationships. Something happens, you need to resolve it. It brings you closer and you restart the cycle over and over again. Something I'm learning with age. Now I'm 33. The best thing about my life by far. And like, you look at my life from the outside and you see the travels, you see the materialistic things, and the success, and yes, that's amazing. But the best thing by far about my life are my relationships, and it's the thing that fulfills me. And the other stuff will never bring true fulfillment. It will never make my life as rich as my friends and my family. And especially in the last few years, I really nurtured these friendships. It's like feeding the soul. It's like a classic saying, but it's so true because I've seen it all. I've seen so much. I've met so many people and I see it all around me. And I know so many rich people who are poor because they don't have real relationships. And also what I always think about is when you're dying, and like, I'm sorry to break it to you, but all of us will die one day. When you are dying, you lay in your bed and you look back to your life, all you will think about is your relationships and the people you spend your time with. It's all about people. Honestly, friendships are so important, and I'm so grateful that I made the decision to prioritize friendships, to invest in friendships, and be a good friend myself. And hence, I attracted amazing people to my life, and that's my favorite thing about life. Oh my god, guys, I'm like talking about stuff that makes me cry. What the hell? Number 6. There's this one term that I recently came across and I love. There's a thing called optimistic nihilism, but the optimistic take on this is nothing really matters. So we can do whatever we want, and it's really this liberating way of looking at life because it's not that serious. Like, so many times I'm literally so upset about something, it takes over my whole world, and I'm like, oh, this sucks and this is bad and like, what the hell? But nothing really matters. You can do whatever you want. Of course, you cannot harm other people and you need to be a kind person. But I love the freedom because I am so often led by fear and I'm so scared of doing so many things. And then I just need to remind myself, nothing really matters. And also the part about it's not that serious. Actually, I have a little story for that. So the night before my birthday, we were going out for dinner and the dinner was nice. Everything was great. On the way back, I was like happy because I was nourished. You know, I had a great time with my family. I was feeling happy. So on the way to the car, I jumped like a little piece of grass and I landed and I just heard, and I was like, oh shoot, I hope it's just leaves, you know, like leaves that are wet, and that's why they sound like I stepped into a big piece of shit. And I looked down. By the way, I was wearing my favorite shoes, of course, and I saw it was a big chunk of dog poo. Okay, and I was like, my favorite white sneakers, and I just busted out laughing. I was laughing so hard. My boyfriend was like, oh my god. I was like, oh my god, and it stank so bad. I was literally like, and then we tried to like clean it off and it didn't work, and then suddenly I had something on my hands and I just cried laughing. And of course, it's not like a fun experience, but it was so funny. And then the next day I woke up and I was like, it's so interesting because on another day I could have had a very different reaction to this experience. Like on another day I would be like, oh, what the hell? Like, who doesn't clean up? Like, what the hell? But I was laughing so hard my belly started hurting, and that's like a prime example of it's not that serious. It doesn't really matter. It's not that serious, you know? And I love that for me. Number 7. That's also one of my favorites, but it's this thing that I also recently read. Struggle is the texture of life. Of course, maybe I would like to struggle less. I guess like every human on this planet. But if I look back to last year, which was the year that I've struggled the most, at least in recent memory, I went through so much shit. And honestly, I remember the days I was in bed crying. I felt so hopeless and I wanted to give up on everything. I mean, not on everything, but I was like, I'm quitting this. I'm not doing this anymore. On most of these days, I really thought there's no way out. And you know, I was already doing therapy, and after many months of therapy, I asked my therapist, I'm like, I'm so frustrated. It's been a few months and I'm not moving forward. I hate the struggle. Like, I hate it. And now I'm at a place where I'm like, wow, I have changed so much because of these struggles that I've had, and I have grown tremendously. I am such a different person. I'm so much further developed than I was last year, and it gives my life a whole nother level of consciousness, a whole nother level of depth. And of course, if you are over this hill, it's easy to say, and when you're in it, it's the worst thing in the world. But I think you are truly powerful if you manage to turn your pain into power. That's what I did, and it's really incredible. So I think sometimes we need to embrace the suck. It is what it is, and you're gonna get out of that stronger. The only way out of it is through it. That's what my therapist always says. Number 8. Everything in life is a pattern. Get good at pattern recognition. So if you always find yourself in the same situation, it's you. I'm sorry, it's you. And I can say this quite confidently because I found myself in a similar situation over and over and over again. And it's a pattern that I created. And you need to get so good at pattern recognition, not just for yourself, but also with other people, with the world, with like everything is a pattern. And it's very important to take notes and see what's the pattern. Which brings me to my next point, which is, it goes hand in hand, but it's number 9, program yourself. Pay attention on the programs that are running in the background, speaking your subconsciousness. Because the reason for the patterns are subconscious beliefs. And I actually have a really interesting example where I held myself back for a very long amount of time. Like even if something good happened to me or I had a great opportunity, I wouldn't want to take it. And I was like, this is so strange. Like, why do I want to not step into my greatness? And I talked about this with my coach and she said, there is some limiting belief at work. What is it? Why do you not want to be successful? And I was thinking about it. And then I realized that throughout my life or my career, a lot of times, so if my success went like this, everything was normal. The minute it went like this, I realized that a lot of friends weren't actually my friends. And people like being around you when you are in your lane. But as soon as you step out and you have this big push, you know, like this big momentum, and it happened like 3 times in my career, I had something that propelled me forward. And every time, close friends would backstab me. And like, in such ugly ways, like I'm still traumatized. And that's a subconscious belief that I had, that if I get more successful or if I get really good at something, I will lose friends. And of course, this is not true because people who are like that, they're never your real friends, okay? From the very start, they're not your friends. I'm sorry to break it to you, but they're not your friends, not your true friends. And in the end, you holding yourself back is not a gift to anybody. And as you know from number 2, the greatest gift you can give to the world is being fully you. And that's when I realized that I have a program running in the background that I need to rewire. Because also the tricky thing about these programs in the subconscious mind is that you are not aware of them. I wasn't aware that this belief was directing me. So that's why it's important. See the patterns, reprogram yourself. Number 9 is one that I really like. But, you know, I really invested a lot in becoming a better person and bettering myself. And I have grown a lot. Like even my best friends of 12 years, last week he was looking at me and he's like, you know, Xenia, I always say to people, I don't know a single person who's grown as much as you have in the last years. And I agree, I have really grown and changed and evolved. And it brings me to point number 10. Be a person people like having around. And it kind of sounds common sense because we all want to be wanted around. But it also goes hand in hand with like, be a great friend. But if you become somebody people like having around, incredible things will happen because you will be part of amazing friendship groups, but not even just in friendships. It's also in business such a huge competitive advantage if you are a person people like having around. And I'm currently picking up the fruits of the seeds that I planted years ago. It's so wonderful. It's so nice to be just appreciated for who you are. Number 11, make the world a better place. This is quite common sense. We all want to make the world a better place, but do we? You know, with every action you do and put out in this world, you either make it better or worse. I always look at it a bit like almost like a balance sheet. And of course, again, nobody's perfect. And yes, like we do some things we're not proud of. Like sometimes I catch myself overreacting or sometimes I'm maybe gossiping, you know, like happens. But overall, you want to make the world better with your actions. You want to radiate so much kindness that a little gossip here and there is not making the world a worse place. Or I just know people who are actually mean. I know people who are really false And I just don't believe that they are contributing to making this world a more beautiful place. For my birthday, I got a birthday card from my mom, and you know how moms are, they think you're like the greatest thing on earth. And my mom was just writing how much more beautiful the world is because I'm in it, and I was just like, this is like the most beautiful thing to say to somebody. Oh my God, I'm crying again. But you know, reading something like this, I'm like, I just want to be a good person. I just want to make the world better. Number 12. The best investment you can do for yourself is therapy. Guys, so when I was reviewing my last year, lots of things were very shit and some were good. And then I was like, is this it? And I realized I only started with therapy last year, and it blows my mind. Completely blows my mind. Because honestly, the thing with therapy is when I started, I was not so sure. I was like, I don't know where this is going. But the thing with therapy is it takes many months to see results. Like many months, okay? So that's something you have to know. I strongly believe that everybody needs therapy. You know, like my dad, he's one of these people who are like, why are you doing therapy? And I'm like, because you didn't do therapy. All the people who are like, oh, I don't need therapy. If you don't go to therapy, other people will go to therapy because of you. That's a fact. I'm so, like, the amount of gratitude I feel for my therapists, I literally cannot express. It's like guardian angels who are on earth, like they're alive. And yes, of course it's transactional, like you pay them, but also the beautiful thing that happens over time, you build a relationship to them. And it's very important to find good people. So I really recommend investing and like, you know, getting references or really getting to know them, because if they're not really great, they can be very dangerous. But if you find somebody great, it's just, I'm so grateful for therapy. I'm so grateful that I have somebody. I will never stop therapy because there's always something, like just understanding human emotions, or sometimes the things I talk about in therapy are so trivial. Like sometimes it goes so deep, sometimes it's not that deep. It's always like a journey. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to really prepare for my next therapy session, but sometimes we start talking, like that happens to me all the time. I start talking about one thing, like I start talking about, oh, this thing happened and I'm really upset, but then the therapist is not saying anything. She's just like listening, because also she doesn't tell me what to do. She's just asking questions, and then she's like digging a little bit, and suddenly I'm at a completely different topic, and I'm like, oh yeah, this thing happened when I was 13 years old, and actually I've never really like worked through this. And it's also like random things, because sometimes we think of things as trivial. Let's say something that happened when I was 15 and it's like no big deal, you know, I witnessed an argument or whatever, but it stayed with you and it's with you and it's subconsciously doing its work. And therapy is the best thing. I really think everybody would benefit from therapy. Like the whole world would be a better place. I'm so grateful for therapy and I cannot stop raving about therapy. I think I should have a whole own episode on therapy, and I already knew how I name it because I have so much more to say about this. And I was like, I need to make a video where I say I went to therapy so you don't have to, which is like a little bit of a joke because of the reasons that I just told you, but I'm so grateful. Wow. Oh my God. We're already at number 13. Last but not least, it's always worth being the bigger person. Okay? This is something I've been thinking about many years. Again, I'm 33, what do I know? But sometimes I see people who are not good people or who are not behaving well, and I'm like, you know what? They don't deserve my goodness. They don't deserve my goodness. I'm sorry, they don't. And I'm not saying that I don't think this way, because sometimes I just really think people don't deserve my goodness. But when I speak about these things in therapy and I'm saying, oh, you know, this person did that and she's such a bad person and she really tried to hurt me, blah, blah, blah. And then my therapist says, yeah, but wish her the best. And I'm like, this feels so powerful. Like the thing about being the bigger person is it feels so powerful. You are in your power and they have no more power. And also, I believe so strongly in karma. And karma doesn't work like he did, she did, comes around, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's not the way we think it is. I mean, if you really look at karma, it's even with like past life and future life, blah, blah. But the way I understand karma in my life is if somebody harms me. And of course, sometimes I fantasize about getting revenge, okay? But that's not how karma works, because their karma is what they did to you, and your karma is how you react to that. So sometimes people get away with being bad people, but so far, I've seen that it always comes back in like one way or the other. And I just believe so much in being a good person. And even with the shitty things that happened to me last year, I know that I will reap insane good karmic points. And I've already seen it. Like, I've already seen some incredible things that are happening in my life right now. And I'm like, wow, this shit is powerful. It's powerful, powerful, powerful. I cannot believe this is already it. I love you and leave you. By the way, I could do so many more of these. Also, it would be kind of funny if we would do this every year. Next year, it's gonna be 13 going 34. Anyway, I'm so grateful to be here. Like, I could cry every day for how grateful I am to be here. I'm so grateful for you guys. Like, my soul is so rich in like love and gratitude I have. I just want to say thank you for being here, especially for my like early watchers who watched my videos when I had like no views or no nothing. And I'm just so grateful for my community, and I love you. I love you guys. It's kind of weird saying this to a camera, and feels very computer weird, like this camera staring at me and I'm saying I love you. But I imagine all the people that I've met on the streets, and like, you guys are so amazing. I'm so proud of my community. I love you guys, and thank you for everything.